Red Team invasion of Mamluks, and as well as the Himalaya invasion of the Mughals. Will this video truly be the breaking point of tensions, and will it finally be World War I in our new civilization? Welcome, welcome back, everybody. So, as you saw in the intro, firstly, today might be the day that everything boils, the tensions boil to a little bit too much, because not only are we going to be having the invasion of the Mughal invasion of the Himalayas, but also the red team overthrowing the Mamluks. So stay tuned to see how those two things happen and what will be the result. But first, a little lesser known thing. I think finally the red team's influence in Africa is already kind of starting to linger because, Rome is just stealing so much of the red team funds. They don't have that much money to actually give their African allies. So in the south, Nigeria is like already a lot of people are getting mad at the red team. Wait, is this not Nigeria? No, this is the Abuja Republic. My fault. That's on me. We don't use real country names over here. I forgot about that. Um, these guys I'm pretty sure are a red team puppet, and these guys are just yeah. These guys are a red team puppet. These guys are also mostly a red team puppet. These guys are independent, and these guys are a blue team puppet. So I'm pretty sure. So yeah, these guys I think because they're not really a puppet, they're more so influenced. I'm pretty sure. So I think finally it is going to be their breaking point. After getting no funds from the red team, but also not being able to trade with the blue team to help their economy flourish because the red team's sanctions and being enforcing sanctions upon these guys to not trade with the blue team, the breaking point is finally going to come. And since the red team has taken this huge little bite out of them and turned it into a puppet state, this is their breaking point, and they will launch an invasion into the red team's puppet as not only a rebellion against the red team, but also to regain lost lands. So they quickly invade the north of the country, and right now it's just to send a message. However, as you're about to see, the red team is going to escalate this from just sending a message to a full scale. I also just checked my old video, just watched it a little bit just to make sure I wasn't getting the low wrong. So yeah, these guys are just a puppet. These guys are mostly a puppet, basically influenced, however technically on their own. But yeah, even though they are like that, eventually it just got too much. All like the cutting it off from the public, because the red team is cut off from the public. Let's be real here. The blue team's allies don't really. Well, they're not like not training with the red team by choice. The red team's just sanctioning everyone that's like with the blue team, and like that's supposed to be to make it harder for the blue team and make being on the blue team side a lot less enticing. But now since half the world is on the side of the blue team, there's literally no point to being on the side of the red team, because if you're on red team side, you have to sanction blue team. So yeah, that's what these guys are doing. Except they have to fight for their freedom since they're technically a puppet state. So yeah, they continue the war, and they're gonna get like pretty far out actually, because they're basically their goal is to capture the north and the capital. The north because a lot of people in the north are on these guys' side and don't really like the red team. But then over here, this is where red team kind of takes things a little bit too far. The south, they basically pay the south to go to war. They completely change everything, the entire dynamic, because the south is paid to do a massacre in over here in this small little region that is full of anti-red team rebels. And well, it's a complete destruction campaign, like completely destroys everything in the region, and quickly the south is going to back away and go back to their territory, which means these guys can't even really get revenge without starting another war. However, this also wasn't really the south, it was a bunch of southern rebels and extreme groups. So that yeah, that's not very good. The red team is also themselves going to start launching troops into here and start blocking it off. However, now these guys have an excuse to go into full out war, which is something the red team should not have done, because yeah, the red team's stronger, but also red team does not have that many colonies down here, which means it will take the red team a lot longer to actually get down over here. However, here's the thing: the blue team is going to jump on this opportunity. They're going to offer these guys a thing. They're going to be like, "Join our team." Now, these guys once again are going to make the worst diplomatic mistake of the entire series. They're going to reject the blue team once more. They're going to say again, "We want to keep neutrality. We want to be able to trade with whoever we want." And the blue team is basically going to take that as a declaration of war. Blue team is going to be like, "Oh, okay, sure," and then they're going to proceed to send all the troops they have in the south to the border, and this thing of theirs is going to launch an invasion, a brutal campaign, basically to get to the capital. And already I think these guys are starting to realize, yeah, we should have just gone with the blue team instead. And after the blue team gets all the way over here, they basically start trying to sign a peace treaty with the blue team. They're like, okay, blue team, chill, let's not do this. Blue team is going to do exactly that. Meanwhile, up here in Lagos, is Lagos on the south? No, Lagos is down here. Lagos would be the capital of these guys, even though they like claim the capital to be up there. Either way, the red team deploys its troops to suppress a bunch of protests in favor of the Central African Republic due to or Central Africa, just not the Republic part. That's a real life country. Basically because a lot of people here, as I said, are also anti-red team. So a lot of protests break out, also because it was just bad what they did there. However, the red team quickly sends troops to basically capture the most violent areas. And one of those is being this very, very big one, which is like the biggest one, which is basically just 100% full of people who want to rebel and go to the south. Actually, this is basically a part of the south. However, technically the red team controls this line, so not really. But yeah, the red team deploys troops, make sure there's no other like rebel movements or like nothing really happens over there. However, Rome now also steps in, donating multiple resources to this, as well as urging the red team to kind of chill. I mean, the blue team to kind of chill a little bit and like to give these guys a chance to at least fight the red team, because even blue team does want the red team out of Africa. Africa was their safe haven basically, and so blue team is going to do something kind of stupid, I guess. Basically, they're going to entice the red team, right? They're going to start doing a lot of stuff in the Red Sea. And not only that, but they're also going to begin pulling back troops from the Mamluk capital, basically telling the red team, "Yeah, try to fight us in the Red Sea and also try to invade the Mamluks." Basically to make our yeah, basically to make the red team look better. How red team is not stupid, and instead they do fight them a little bit in the Red Sea. However, not really that much. They kind of just scare them off, and quickly blue team realizes this is horrible, and they do put back their troops. However, it's just showing the amount of length that the blue team is willing to go to. But Rome does do something. Rome and its allies completely shut trade to the blue team, demanding blue team withdrawal from Central Africa. While that is happening, Central Africa continues their front. This time, getting actually doing pretty well, as most people are now joining Central Africa to kind of just like get rid of the red team. Red team's getting scared, and they actually step in. They're like, "All right, blue team, let's not pull out of Central Africa, and I will fill in the trade roles of Rome." However, blue team really did what did happen to my mic there? Anyways, blue team really does not want to do that. They want to keep their reputation as anti-red team, so they do pull out. However, at the condition that these guys consider leaning towards the blue team instead of going neutral for their own benefit. And the blue team uses their invasion as proof. That invasion could happen again. Her blue team is not done though. They actually walk over to red team and they issue a complete blockade. Not only here, but they also, with the help of the tribes over here, complete land blockade as well. That's gonna hit very hard. No, with no more supplies, these guys begin getting absolutely whooped around and eventually pushed all the way back here, where the red team demands peace, or else uh yeah, they just demand peace. And these guys are about to say no until the South steps in and gives the red team a little bit of comfort, basically saying, "Okay, if you guys continue the war with the red team, we are going to join on the side of the red team." I know these guys are already kind of like their economy is dying from this, so they're like, "Fine, we'll back off as long as the red team in a little bit of time begins, or actually, yeah, just begins the process of decolonizing South Central Africa." So, I guess that's good. There's not going to be that much colonization here anymore. Red Team does agree to that. However, it remains to be seen if they will honor that agreement. Now, even though the Red Team lost a lot of land, the land they lost is not the land they will keep in this peace treaty. They will keep the Red Team majority areas, which will include a lot of stuff, actually. They will get that. They will not be keeping that. They will be keeping this little thing. They will even keep some regions on the border itself. So yeah, most stuff is going to go away from the red team. However, some regions will stay, and also this itself is going to be not fully incorporated into these guys' territory. It will stay a little bit of like not disputed, but like it's not yours, it's not mine, but it's yours. That's what the red team says basically. It's not yours, it's not mine, but it's yours. Interpret that as you will. Now to the second thing of this, the red team during all this kind of realized something. Without complete control over the Mediterranean, Sinai, and all our African ports, if an overseas war does end up breaking out, we can't get our resources anywhere. And so the red team is gonna do something a little bit too drastic. They're gonna set their sights on the Mamluks. Basically, they want about all of this to one ensure complete dominance in the Mediterranean, as they will actually dominate the Mediterranean if they get all of the Mamluk lands, but also because Rome is getting a little bit too close to the Mamluks, and seeing as the Ottomans are already on the Roman side now, Red Team does not want even more countries on the Roman side, and Carthage was their counter to Rome. However, the amount of times they've had to bail out Carthage Carthage is honestly just a waste of money for them right now. So they're going to decide to artificially make the Mamluks on their side without having to do too much, and that is by funding a lot of rebels, which has actually helped since the Mamluks are now currently entering a recession period. Since the blue team is starting to withdraw a lot of investments from from Mamluks, instead investing into Rome, which is also a key ally of the current king, which is gonna make the people hate him a little bit more. And with some propaganda, the red team begins successfully begins a civil war, mostly in these like undeveloped areas, undeveloped desert areas where not a lot of things can happen and requires a lot of funding from the government, which the government isn't doing because they are running out of money. So those are the regions most affected, and those are the regions that are going to rebel. Another region that is going to rebel is down here. These guys who have been under Mamluk control for a pretty long time, actually, now. A lot of episodes, actually. And I've just kind of been having to sit there and take taxation without representation. So they're going to rebel, and eventually the Mamluks are going to realize they might be cooked. Because not only that, but the red team is also going to fund their own rebels that are like just joining the red team. And these rebels, although not as strong because not that many people have a demand for that, it really doesn't matter because rebels are rebels, and either way, it's gonna end in favor of the red team because these guys are so anti-Mamluk. They want to be on the red team side, and then these guys just are red team rebels. Like, red team paid a bunch of militias to go to war with the government. Um, Now a key location that falls is the outskirts of and this location is the like one of the places that are rebel is the outskirts of the Alexandria city, which is a very important, probably the most important city on the Mediterranean other than Rome. It's actually on the same level as Rome, honestly. And so that is going to be scary. And right when those city walls are breached, which is this border right here, Mamluks may actually lose all hope. Now, Mamluks are going to focus most of their stuff on defeating Red Team rebels, which is going to go good. These guys are going to get destroyed, and so are these guys. However, the Mamluks are very quickly losing complete control of their country, which is shown by the collapse of their entire southern front. Not only that, however, the rebels are quickly going to actually go to nearby towns. They're going to capture those, and they're gonna just like go up the Mamluk border over here, uniting even more people with the same like needs for government funding that weren't being met as them. And overall, this is not actually a very good situation. And the Romans are gonna start sending troops now. They're gonna realize if we don't save the Mamluks now, we might lose our key ally. And even though the Mamluks aren't in the alliance of the Romans, they're still a very very important partner. All this is going to be made even worse as the southern rebels are going to break out of their containment zone, which was set up by the Mamluks, to make sure if they do lose that front, at least it won't go too bad. However, since they break out over here, that's not good. And eventually, the city walls of Alexandria are broken through. And over here, as Alexandria is about to fall, Rome realizes the government of these guys is absolutely cooked and sends in its own troops, uh, and its alliance's troops, led by Rome itself, obviously, and they make a landing in Alexandria, swiftly taking over the rest of the city and saving multiple. My alarm went off. Multiple different. All right, so back over here in the war, Paint 3D may or may not have glitched out a little bit, but basically, yeah. So now the Romans launched their own thing, and by this point, the main government has mostly collapsed. Let's be honest here. So the Mamluks are going to actually quickly begin capturing a bunch of street strategic ports, so that they are able to actually be able to do stuff. However, those ports are that's basically it. Yeah. Yeah. The red team, though, seeing this, is also going to launch their own invasion, and yeah, this is not looking good. They're going to get about this far before they retract their forces, instead letting the rebels do most of the work. However, the rebels, it's not like they're doing none of the work because they're going to quickly reach the red team border, and now the Mamluks know they're cooked because now we have the red team basically being able to supply these guys very, very well. Not only that, but Carthage is also going to help them by launching its own invasion of the Mamluks, basically to make life harder for the Romans. And it's going to be basically to force the Romans to actually fight Carthage, because if the Romans do not fight Carthage, then they can't get around Carthage, since all this land is really hard to traverse. I don't know if it is in real life, but in this it will be. And so Rome is forced to declare war on Carthage, and as the two forces clash over here, Carthage is invaded by the Romans, and a spearhead is made. And as the Romans are getting about here, Carthage is going to be like, yeah, yeah, chill, 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 chill. And the Romans are going to pull out because they don't have resources right now, so they have to just settle for whatever peace treaty they can find. However, it is going to still waste their resources and still make life harder, and still make it so they're Invasion itself is a lot slower. However, basically after getting till here, they realize this may be a lost cause, especially as the rebels themselves, after capturing a lot of towns and key locations, reach Carthage and are now have successfully secured the entire inner part of the Mamluks. So that already is very bad. Now let's show you what else is really bad. A red team invasion. The red team, now seizing all of these opportunities, is going to invade by themselves also. And they're going to get all the way over here. And now the Mamluks have truly collapsed. Like completely. That government is gone. This is uncolonized land now. And it's basically a dash for who can get to the capital the fastest. And yeah, I think the capital is the only part of this country that's still functioning. So it's a dash for whoever can get there the fastest. However, it is not easy because that capital is the most highly protected city in the world now, since literally all the patriots are hiding there. A lot of people mass fleeing as well. A lot of people are fleeing the country and also these regions to go into the capital, leading to it becoming actually the fastest growing population, uh, city by fastest growing population in the entire world. And honestly, the food itself cannot sustain this. Red team is also going to continue their things. They're going to continue. They're going to get to the outskirts of the city before they're going to be forced to stop as well. And the rest of the south is going to, through various means, either surrender or conquering, is going to also fall to the rebels. With that, Mamluks are basically that's it. However, the Romans are actually going to pull through. Question mark? They might, because the Romans are going to actually make a move and they're going to get about yay far before and get, actually they're going to free a lot of refugees. They're also going to help a lot of patriots. However, once they get about here, it's hell. All hell breaks loose. So these guys, they're going to go through like that. Red team is going to start breaking through like that. And the Romans themselves, they're going to go through. Oops, let me go select the Roman color again. They're going to make it through like that. And at the end of the day, the capital is going to be basically three-wayed entered at the same time. However, the surrender will, most of it will be under the Romans, and after some small fights, the Romans are going to be able to capture most of it, leading to the civil war coming to an end. However, the victors being somehow, some way, technically the Mamluks because the Romans clutched up. Technically. However, in practice, since the people even under the Romans are against the Romans, most of them, except for, near the capital, technically they lost. Now I'm gonna do the peace treaty, so give me a second. All right. So taking a look at this peace treaty, firstly we have the red team annexing two pieces. We have the Alexandria city of Alexandria going to the red team, as well as this little piece that they conquered, which they say is to basically keeping an eye out on the Romans, while the Romans captured this stuff over here, basically everything that they took up until the capital. Also, um, the rest of this country actually got the rest of the Mamluks actually got divided up into province, and each province is like equal contributor. There's two capitals, one for the south, one for the north. The north only has one province, and it's this capital. Actually, let's add one more province to that. One province right here, and let's actually add one more right down here, and another right over here. North also has four provinces now, and the capital for that is right there. Well, the capital for the south also has four provinces, and that. All right. So with that out of the way, lastly, we are going to have the war between the Himalayas and the Mughals. Also, the breaking point in the series for the blue team, because they're honestly, I think they're finally getting sick of the Mughals a little bit, and who knows, maybe next episode this will lead to an Indian continental war. So let's see. Quickly, now this war begins because of, remember that guy who was like pro these guys and then ran up there from like last episode or the episode before that, I don't remember, but it caused a little war between the Stanstanis and the Mughals. Well, after all, he was pro these guys, and a lot of his people actually now decide to do another thing, and this time right here. Except this time they have complete support, and this time instead of recognizing it as a horrible act, these guys support it. And the Mughals are like, you know what? We're done with you. We're just gonna take all these areas that you used to support these guys against our little territory up here by force, and they do exactly that. Quickly, Mughal sent a lot of troops and, in the middle of the night, launched a blitzkrieg attack, burning down a lot of villages and capturing that entire area. Not only that, they also launched another little thing from here, completely destroying the entirety of these guys. And since they were relying on their puppet states to stop the Mughal attacks, these guys did not expect the Mughals to send this many troops, because they expected that all of like Mughal troops would be south, like, trying to fend off the blue team in case a war ever happened. So all these guys' troops were like down here in order to help their puppet state in case of a war actually breaking out, or over here to like counter Persia or something. This was not expected. And like I said, this was at very late during night, like when everyone was sleeping, which makes it even more surprise attack. And no one was actually expecting it to be like instant like this. No one was expecting the Mughals to just pull out of nowhere and do this. So within the first few days, within the first few hours, the Mughals did all of this, and then once a day passes, the Mughal does that, and eventually the blue team does find and in that day find out that this is happening, and they basically tell the Mughals, get out. Yes, that's it. They just say get out. They're not ready for this. They don't even have their military mobilized, so they don't even try to go declare war. They just give an ultimatum. However, the Mughals know that there is time before this ultimatum can truly happen to its full course, and their goal during that is to basically set themselves up for success. If a war does end up happening. And so, after doing that, these guys are going to continue south in a very narrow path, basically targeting and destroying military infrastructure around the borders over here, setting themselves up for success when a future inevitable war does end up happening, which their military has decided should happen to give them the best chance of winning, should happen in the next 1 or 2 episodes, because that is how long these guys will probably take to rebuild all this stuff. And yeah, well, I guess that's a teaser technically. I don't know. You'll have to keep watching. Maybe there will be a war in these episodes. Maybe it will be like 5 episodes from now. We'll see. These guys they continue. These are basically Mughal as well. Like they are Mughal. I don't know why I'm keeping the colors separate. They get all the way over here, and that's basically it. They get over there, and that's where the Mughals start testing their luck because now the blue team is mobilized, and the Mughals are going to slowly retract forces after completely destroying the entire group that was planning those attacks for the past 2 episodes, which is one going to give these guys a very very bad reputation, but also two, their military is basically gone now. So yeah, that was the last thing that happens this episode. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, go watch another episode if you're new to the series, and I'll see you next time.